President William Ruto has a new aide-de-camp, Colonel Fabian Lengusuranga from the Kenya Army. Fabian comes as a replacement for Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Lekolol, who served as the former President Uhuru Kenyatta's ADC. Addressing the nation during the Labour Day celebrations for the year 2022, speaking of hard times, Uhuru Kenyatta made a joke and looked at Lieutenant Colonel Timothy and cracked a joke asking him whether his salary had been deducted or had been paid in full.
Kweli wa mambo. Wewe ulikatwa mshahara?
Timothy Lekolol was promoted by Uhuru Kenyatta to brigadier and deployed to the Department of Defense Forces headquarters. Fabian's first day on duty was to accompany President Ruto as he attended the burial of Jack Gachagua, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's brother in Mathira in Nyeri County. The new ADC is deputized by Lieutenant Colonel Damaris Agneta, also from the Kenya Army. She takes over from Rachel Nduta Kamui, who has been promoted to a full colonel and deployed to the Department of Defense headquarters. Colonel Lengusuranga was commissioned in 1999. He is a seasoned and decorated military officer serving as Senior Special Forces Branch Commander. Lieutenant Colonel Damaris Agneta was commissioned in 2003 and has been serving as an artillery officer. She also served in the UN Observer Mission. Former ADC Timothy was from the Kenya Navy, while his deputy Kamui was from the Kenya Air Force. In line with the aide-de-camp, back in history for the former president, the late Arap Moi, 6 men served as his ADC, and they are Brigadier Samuel Macharia, who was Moi's first and President Jomo Kenyatta's last. He was at the bedside of the founding father when he was pronounced dead in August 1978. He resumed duty 2 months later when President Moi ascended to power. Major General Peter Ikenye assumed the ADC role in 1979. He is remembered for accompanying former President Moi to chaotic Libya trip in 1982. He was also with Moise during the attempt coup d'etat in 1982. Although ADCs are not supposed to carry guns, he put on his military uniform and carried a submachine gun ready to protect the president. Brigadier Wilson Boynet was one of the longest-serving ADCs. He was picked from the military after the attempted coup and held his role for 8 years. He lost his job after a bitter confrontation with powerful cabinet minister Nicholas Biwott during a presidential trip abroad. Boynet was later brought back to head the Directorate of Security Intelligence. Brigadier Alex Sitienei served as a head of education programs at the defense headquarters before assuming the role of ADC, and he often wrote the president's speech. He vied for the Sotik parliamentary seat after retiring, but lost. Lieutenant Jonathan Rono served as ADC from 1998. He was present when President Moi met Vice President George Saitoti and Cabinet Minister Joseph Kamotho and assured them that their names were in the list of the proposed contestants for KANU Vice Chairman and Secretary General, respectively. Funny enough, minutes before Saitoti and Kamotho arrived at Kasarani, Moi gave Rono a list that didn't have any of their names. So this only portrayed Rono as a liar, since he had told Saitoti and Kamotho that their names were on the list. Brigadier Kemei Kipngetich was the last ADC to Moi. He served for 6 months, and at that time, Moi was campaigning for Uhuru to succeed him. When the late Mwai Kibaki came into power, he started with Lieutenant Colonel Josiah Mrashui as his ADC. Mrashui was then replaced by Lieutenant Colonel Godfrey Kingangi, a former Mbeere South MP. During his time in service, Kingangi had the worst experience of his career when he lost the president when they attended the General Assembly Conference in the US. The Lieutenant Colonel cited that there were several meetings scheduled to take place within the same building, and immediately they finished the first meeting, the head of state was cleared to proceed ahead of him. Colonel Kingangi had to force his way through the clearance door to catch up with the president, who was now walking without security. He was later replaced by Colonel Peter Njiru and then Colonel Victor Mburu until Kibaki retired. And here comes a brief history of the role of the ADC. He is the military officer who stands behind the president and commander-in-chief of the Kenya Defense Forces during the official functions. The ADC receives gifts and other items on behalf of the president, escorts the president to waiting cars, as well as ensures that the president's seat at any function is properly set as he sits. The ADC also carries the president's personal items such as mobile phones, speeches when going to functions. He or she is also expected to provide advice and assistance to hosts of official functions on behalf of the president.